Hey Cody, thanks a lot for joining
Pleasure.
us today, right? And we're here to talk about your journey to build the company,
Yeah.
why you started building this company, what problem you're trying to solve, and some messages or advice that you have with the fellow
Yeah.
co-founders that we can share as we move along.
Sure.
So yeah, thanks again for joining us.
Thank
right?
you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
tell me more about your startup. What problem you're trying to solve?
Sure. So I'm building a company called Avoy.
Mhm.
It's a early stage travel startup. So we aim to build a travel inspiration product that helps users find off the beaten path destinations, and then from there actually make those destinations accessible by notifying them when there's flight deals, potential opportunities, relevant content, etc.
That's really cool. Like, I'm personally myself, I'm a big traveler too, and that's
Yeah.
one of the problems that I always have. Like,
Yeah.
what is the next destination?
Where to
that I
go
should
to
be?
next. Exactly.
And it's one of those things that I personally like to connect to places, people, food that
Yeah.
are off the
Correct.
beaten path, right? And I've
Correct.
never been there before, whatnot. Learn those experiences and take those story back home, right? Share with your friends and family, and it's not one of those Me Too moments, right? It's
Yeah.
something unique that stays with you, right?
Exactly.
And it's an interesting place to be, right?
Yeah, so the travel industry right now, I think, is going through some significant changes, particularly in the expansion of air travel, accessibility to newfound destinations, but also a changing consumer attitude towards travel. So like you said, people are not looking to go to the Londons and the Parises
Right.
and check off, kind of a standard list of destinations. They're looking to explore new places. We think now is kind of the right time to introduce a product that captures all this data that we now have thanks to technology, and then we recommend these unique places.
So tell me more about how you go about solving that problem. Like, what data that you get? Like, how's the user experience like, right? If someone
Yeah.
like me comes to your site, how do you identify that this is what AJ loves?
Yeah, correct. So we like to have a low friction onboarding process. Where the user signs up, we might ask them a couple questions about where they've been in the past, what they like, what their travel persona is. And then from that point, we're just going to start recommending stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean destinations, experiences, that type of content, and then we learn from you. So it almost operates like a modern day dating app. You might save something down, you might skip something, and then based off that interaction, we'll say, okay, we start to understand what AJ likes and what AJ is currently looking for.
That's awesome. So it's not just a point in time arrangement, right? It's a journey that I can build along
Correct.
with your startup or problem that you're trying to solve. Where I come in one day, express my interests, whatnot, and then sign up for a few things and see, when's the right time? What are the recommendations?
Yeah, so our goal is to constantly learn.
Uh-huh.
So people change, your preferences change, and you might be looking for something this August with, a significant other and you're looking for a romantic destination. Next March, you might be looking for something entirely different. So we also have to adapt
Right.
to what you have indicated to us and start to learn, okay, there's a consistent thread or consistent theme for what AJ is looking for.
Perfect. It sounds like it's a problem that serves a better purpose at scale, right?
Yeah.
So how do you start with gathering the data? What was that journey like, right? Because initially there's not enough data to start with, right?
Correct. So that's kind of the tricky problem most people run into. So the start was a lot of rolling up our sleeves. So we did have to do some data gathering ourselves. But as I explained, as we ask users where they've been in the past, what they care about, we now start to collect this user-generated content that feeds right back into our models. So if you indicate to us you love this super small town in the south of Colombia,
Right.
we now have this interesting data point about the small town in the south of Colombia. And we can do some curation on the top, to some light curation, and then start feeding them back into our user base to people who might think and operate in a similar fashion to you.
That's awesome. So the ability to influence some of those decision making and build the experiences that are unique, that is powerful, right?
Yeah.
And coming to a point, back in the days, about probably 5 years or 10 years ago, like all these things would probably happen through word of mouth. You really have to know somebody who
Correct.
who's been there,
And
done
to be
there.
honest, they still happen.
Uh-huh.
Often word of mouth right now.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you think about some of your travel experiences, maybe someone on the subway told you
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great story about a trip they took. And we would like to take that using technology and apply that at scale.
So that's interesting. So what's your thought process around capturing those conversations and data points that happen outside the pocket, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it would be great if people would come in and feed it back to your site and give
Yeah.
you that information. What's the vision around like capturing that sort of information? Because
Yeah.
that's unique, right?
Yeah, so definitely one of the challenges whenever you ask someone to provide data, you have to make that experience very fun
I see.
and enjoyable, and also provide some value to them, right? So we do have some features within our product that are building out your travel map. It's a fun, interactive way of visualizing where you've been, you know, seeing where your friends have been, maybe comparing, overlapping parts of the world that you've gone together or you've missed, etc. So we like to make that experience fun, and also value add. It's something you can share. Think about how many people have scratch maps at home or
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a map and they put pins and,
That's
and
me.
stuff like that.
That's
So
me, yeah.
we would like to bring that to a digital experience that can be transmitted, you know,
Right.
via WhatsApp, Facebook, all those.
Right.
platforms.
Right. So yeah, you tapping into that social effect around, you know, and gathering some of the data.
It's a fun subject to talk about.
Yeah,
Lots of people like
100%.
talking about travel. So,
100%. Like this whole notion of, you know, capturing people's curiosity
yeah.
and then tying that to an experience, right? There's a gap, right? And this is what I believe you guys are trying to solve in that
Yeah,
perspective.
correct.
So, yeah, that's great. Can you talk a little bit about the technology stack that you're using
Yeah.
and how's that helping build the vision that you're going after?
Yeah, correct. So on our back end, we use Postgres. We use Python, Django REST framework. On the front, we're currently building React.js and React Native. So native for your iOS, Android applications. And then, of course, we use DigitalOcean
That's
to
great choice.
to host and also for our spaces management.
How's that experience been so far?
It has been incredibly positive. Funny story, I actually worked in the New York building where
That's
DigitalOcean
awesome.
was based. So I worked for a fund down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually my first exposure
Okay.
to DigitalOcean. So through, you know, getting back on my computer, typing in DigitalOcean, understanding what they did and what they offered, that's kind of how I got involved. But I do definitely appreciate the ease of use.
Thank
and
you.
I think for a startup, that is an interesting balance that you have to strike,
Mm-hmm.
is immediacy and quality.
Exactly.
And it's constantly something you're trying to get right.
Yeah, right.
But you do need to move fast as you're developing your product.
That's perfect. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your background because I did some research and it sounds like you come from a finance background and you're into solving a really interesting problem that probably has nothing to do with finance, right? How did that
Okay.
transition happen and what was the trigger point?
Sure. So my background's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's the way I prefer it, to
Yeah.
be quite honest.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Western Canada.
Mhm.
I was recruited to play varsity baseball down in the States.
Nice.
Played baseball down there. And then studied cognitive neuroscience and computer science.
Uh-huh.
So I've always had one foot in technology. But I am a big finance nerd. I
Right.
enjoy that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to work on Wall Street, did about 6 years there at an investment bank, quantitative hedge fund. And to be quite honest, you're solving similar problems. You're solving problems about data.
Uh-huh.
You're solving problems about customers. What do they want? What do they need? So if you really want to abstract that up, in a lot of ways you're doing the same thing depending on whatever industry you're in.
Yeah, that's a pretty great way to put it, right? The similarity between those industries and the abstraction layer with the data and the customers, right? There's a gigantic amount of data out there. What do you do out of it, and
Correct.
kind of insights that you derive can be useful across.
Yeah.
So the process, the method, you're right on. I was just curious on how that transition happened, but now that you explained it, it made perfect sense, right? So
And travel has been a hobby of mine
There you
and a
go.
passion of mine, so it's It's, you know, in a selfish regard, I thought there was some things that we could solve about this industry, and I would love to
Exactly.
apply myself to it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like, and I talk to people, I hear the same thing. Like, everybody has this hidden notion, not just hidden, but an aspiration to go around the world, try and see different places, right? Connect with different people, right? And I think that industry, the opportunity to solve those problems and actually connect humans to humans, is mind-boggling, right? You know, yes, we've done a great job with, you know, virtual connect with Facebooks and WhatsApp and whatnot, but that whole emotional connect that you get when you meet somebody, you know, it's a stranger. You go to a different place where you're curious and trying to learn different things. You know, it just mind-boggling, right, in a way. And I think some of the problems that you're trying to solve there are very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Well, we would absolutely love if people got out there and went to places that are new and foreign to them. And I know personally for myself, that's been a powerful experience. Just, you know, walking through a grocery store of a new place. That's something that, you know, can be powerful in a weird way. But you start to learn about the different products, the different mannerisms that people have, and how similar or dissimilar they are to yourself.
Exactly. It helps you rewire your brain, right? And your whole perspective about life and people that you look is very different. So that is super, super powerful. Like, you briefly mentioned about baseball, right? You know, you grew up as an athlete, right? You know, that's outstanding, right? Like, tell me more about how that has helped you, you know, be on the journey that you're on right now.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, athletics, I think, are a great tool to teach you. In particular, I think in disciplines of time management, but also in working with the team. You start to understand, you know, how valuable having teammates are, but also how to operate with teammates, how to bring the best out of teammates, how to bond together over a common goal. All of these things could be applied to not just business, but, you know, general relationships.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What I'm hearing is it elevates your game, especially around the leadership side of things, right? And the respect that you build for one another, right? Helping each other succeed for a much bigger goal. So, yeah, that's fantastic, right? You know, and that's one of the things that I have two boys, and I try and encourage them to, you know, grow up as an athlete, right? Because it always helps you do whatever you're gonna do in future with your core job and whatnot. So it's super exciting to hear that from somebody who's been there, done that, right? and been successful. So that's great. Are there any advices that you want to share with your fellow co-founders or people trying to take on this journey?
Yeah, so I think, and maybe this is kind of a rite of passage that everyone has to go through, but there's definitely some things I've learned on the pathway, and probably the biggest one is to just get out there, talk to users, to test immediately. And this is where having handy technological tools really can give you edge, but just getting out there, build something quick, get it in front of users, see how they react, tweak, repeat, just rinse and repeat. When I started, I had a tendency to build what I like to call an art project, something very complex, very beautiful that I could tell my mother about and she would be very proud, but might not serve a purpose. So you have to fight that inner temptation to build that art project and make yourself vulnerable. Just build something, throw it out there, get a few laughs back, but then take those laughs and figure out what the deeper meaning is behind that and where you should adjust your sights effectively. Yeah,
that's an awesome advice, right? You hit on a key point, you know, make yourself vulnerable, right? I think, you know, when you do that, the best of you comes out, right? And some of the things it's hard. It's a really hard thing to do. But when you get that right, you know, you're not just exposing yourself, but you're exposing yourself about new things that you could do, right? And learning more things about yourself as well, right? So that's fantastic. You know, you talked about team building, right? You know, how big is the team right now? How many people work on this project, and what's the goal?
Yeah, so the team right now is 10. So it's quite big, and we have people from all different backgrounds helping out in all different aspects of the product. We have people from a design background helping us out build the user interface. We have engineers. We have, business backgrounds. So I think the big thing is just getting everyone to work in unity on the product, to go towards a common goal, definitely reiterate what that goal is. And for me, that's been the most enjoyable part, is just learning, how does someone operate?
Yep.
What do they respond to? What are they looking for out of this project? And then helping them achieve that.
That's awesome. So what are some of the approaches that you took for hiring in the early days, right? Obviously, that has been probably would have been one of the biggest challenges growing company in a way, right? There are some tips?
Yeah, so I have an unusual hiring approach.
Okay.
I'm quite systematic about it. So I don't do much screening up front. I have a series of about 3 tests per se that I put individuals through. And before they complete those tests, I actually don't look at resumes, I don't look at names, I don't look anything about their background. But I try and standardize that process. And then those tests, some of those tests depend on, the role of the individual. Are they an engineer? Maybe there's a coding question, quiz, etc. But upon completion of those tests, that's where I actually sit down and start to go through someone's background, get on a video chat with them, and discuss what they're looking for.
That's fascinating, right? While you were explaining this, I'm thinking and talking to myself, like, isn't that how you're actually solving the problem for your company too, right? You're taking the influence or what you can think about an individual upfront out of the picture. You're working with the data first, right? Let me understand the data first, and then I'm going to set a perception of what that person should do and what not. So I think, I can see some of those fundamental values that you aspire.
Well, it's far too easy to make a snap judgment.
Yeah.
And you do have to, we're all humans, we aren't robots.
Yeah.
So you do have to overcompensate for some of those snap judgments that will sneak in.
Exactly. Like, just can you imagine building a business that you're in with the snap judgment, right? You probably wouldn't succeed in a way, right?
Exactly.
So it's amazing to know how you're bringing some of those learnings and you as an individual into everything that you do in building the company and solving the problem that is in front of you. That's outstanding, and it's probably one of the most amazing advice that we can give it back to the community, right? Know who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Bring your best self in everything that you do, not just building a product or a company, building a team together, right?
Exactly. And know your weaknesses.
Exactly. It's a big part of setting the culture as well, right? So, yeah, tell me about some of the challenges I'm pretty sure that you have hit few road bumps while building the product out, technical challenges, people challenge.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest technological challenges I've encountered is user interfaces. So especially if you're a technical founder and you're in the weeds writing code day in and day out, you know the product and you know how it operates. You can overlook some of the user experience challenges that you create for your user base. So you might place a big button that says click here on the application, and you'll look at the data and you'll look at users using it, and no one's clicking the click here button. So you do almost have to step out of that engineer mode and allow yourself to look at the product from an entirely new perspective.
Right.
And that's often quite challenging. So I think for me, there's now tools and tricks to help accomplish that. One of them is just taking a break from writing code, taking a couple days off, coming back and analyzing what mess you've created.
Right.
But yeah, so that one's definitely been challenging.
So yeah, I hear that breaking down the thought process and then coming out of your comfort zone and then restarting, refreshing, right? And then it's probably one way that you're approaching the problem. What are the other things? Like, do you go after doing a user study? Do you watch them over when they're using the product? Like, can you share some of the learnings with the team?
Yeah, correct. So we're definitely big fans of watching users. So sitting someone down in front of a computer and saying go.
Yeah.
Not giving them any guidance, not telling them what the product is, just saying go. And you do find out a lot of things very quickly. A lot of things are quite frustrating to you as the engineer. because they might not operate in the way you expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And the changes in sequence can often make a big impact on how the product's perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So if they click on screen C before screen A,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go to B, their view of the product might be entirely different
Right.
than if someone followed the quote-unquote sequence
Mm-hmm.
you wanted them to take.
That's interesting, right? So you get capturing all different kind of perspective before going out and building an experience that can be generic in a way. So that's fantastic to hear. Tell me about a moment, right, where something that you worked on and that emotionally connected with your user, right? And that's when you felt like, aha, this is why I'm solving this problem, right?
Yeah.
This made me immensely proud.
Yeah, so I think the one that kind of jumps to mind is we do have an invite feature where
Mhm.
a user can invite someone else. And we had a user, play around with the app for quite some time, quite a long session,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see this user invite his significant other or his partner, and then you see them both using the application together.
Ah,
And I think that was kind of a cool experience. I had no idea what they were doing, but I
Uh-huh.
imagine they might have been, in their living room discussing destinations, going back and forth, and building out almost like a joint bucket list.
that is so powerful, right? Can you imagine now having more people, strangers, working together to build an experience, right? That is so unique, and then share with the rest of
Yeah.
the community, right? There's this notion that somehow I get a feeling that the product that you're building has more than the product in itself, right? There's a
Yeah.
sense of community, right?
Definitely.
Once you get to a point where you have people interacting with each other and then building these experiences with somebody been there, done that, with somebody new trying to learn, right? That can
Yeah.
be so amazingly powerful, right?
Especially in the realm of travel inspiration.
Yeah.
Travel planning itself, so booking a flight, booking a ticket, is a more solitary experience.
Yeah.
But the act of discovering where you should go
Yeah.
is a very communal experience. If you're traveling with 4 or 5 people, everyone would like to have an opinion
Yeah.
on where we should go to.
Exactly.
And we would like to capture that. We'd like to piggyback off that, make that experience fun, communal.
Great. So your platform does support that as of today.
Yeah, correct.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I remember going through some of those hassles, planning trips out, right, and then reading random forums and feedback from here and there. You never really know what to trust, and
Yeah.
does it really make sense? Is it exactly
Does
how
it apply to me?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And what does it mean? There's always this fear, right, that is driven through a lot of unknowns, right? So
Yeah.
I think the opportunity there is outstanding, right? If you were to put some numbers around this, like what does this market look like for you?
Well, we think the market's quite sizable. The
Mhm.
travel industry in general is extremely sizable and growing.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a trend that's going to reverse.
Yeah.
I think the more, speaking as an individual, the more you experience new destinations, the more you want to experience
Yeah.
further destinations. It's why it's referred to as a travel bug.
Mm-hmm.
So as more and more people, raise their socioeconomic standards, but also catch this travel bug, we just think this is something that's going to continue to grow and grow.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Are there any insights that you can share with the rest of us around, like, where are you seeing, which user group or which age group you're seeing the most interest around being more
Yeah.
creative and curious?
Yeah, so we do think it tends to be the younger travelers.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sense of adventure that's
Uh-huh.
often in us when we're young and
Mhm.
potentially stupid, traveling all around the world. And we think that's something that once you get it, it carries with you for your whole
Yeah.
life. So that is kind of the group that we would love to initiate our product with.
That's great. Yeah. Tell me more about what a success would look like for you in 6 months from now, a year from now,
Yeah.
or probably 5 years, right?
Yeah, so I think the big success is when this question pops in your mind,
Mhm.
where should I go next? If the thing you think of is us,
All right.
and you immediately open this application, maybe you go through some of the places you've saved down, jog your memory, maybe you find some new ones, but we would love to be the absolute first stop. in that travel, decision-making process.
And that's a great goal to have. Like you really want to create a brand around this, right? So, are there any approaches that you can share with the community on, what are the steps they can take? Because it's a hard problem to solve. Like, how do you be on everyone's smartphone, right?
Yeah.
How do you be on a bookmark on everyone's computer, right?
Correct. So we do want to make our product very shareable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, AJ, you receive a recommendation for a small town, in the south of France.
Mm-hmm.
You think I might love it.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to have the ability to just share that across to me as quickly as possible and basically turn this thing into an organic growth machine.
Okay.
Which we're sharing ideas with each other. We're sharing our passports, where we've been in the past, with each other, our little travel maps. All that stuff we think can be transmitted quite easily and in a fun fashion.
That's interesting. So you mentioned sharing passport. Like, can you tell more about that? Because
Yeah,
it makes me curious. Like,
so when I say passport, I'm referring to the scratch-off map that's effectively within our product.
So it does look like a passport in a way.
It looks like more like a map, but
Okay.
that's kind of the name we go with.
Right. So when you've been there, you automatically capture that experience, and
Check it off. It's in there.
It's
There's
amazing.
pins on your map.
That is amazing. So it's essentially your travel book,
Yeah.
like where you've been and all the experiences that you captured or whatnot. Because today, every time I travel, I open up Google Sheet, right, and then I start writing this
You're not
day, go
alone.
here, like lot of long laundry list of things, and it stays with me, right? And then somebody wants to travel, they'll ping me, hey Jay, I'm going here. I know you've been there before. Can you share your?
Yeah.
And then I have to think twice, like, do I really want to share the whole thing?
Yeah.
It has information like, which hotel I stayed at, maybe and I don't have time to, scrub all that out, right? So, those are interesting problems, right? Now that you talk about it, like, it just makes sense.
Definitely.
People need that, right? And are you experiencing some of those things, like, how do you share your passport experience with people and your friends without?
Personally, I've experienced that many times.
Yeah.
Where, you might travel to Medellin, Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
A friend hears word that you went there and then reaches out.
Yeah.
And you put together this elaborate document of all the places you went there, and you send it over, and it is fun, but it is burdensome to your point.
It is.
And one of the next steps for us is to make our experience even more social.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have almost like a friend or follower interface where we could be friends on Voy. You could see where I've been, and then if you have an upcoming trip, let's say to Medellin, you would see that I had been there.
Mm-hmm.
You could just reach out and ask me.
That is fantastic, right? So tell me more about how would you take the next step to essentially go from few thousand to million, right? What would be that aha moment, right? Organic growth will get us there, but what are some of the things that you're thinking that can actually help you get to the next level, right?
Yeah, I think just getting our name out there. We're in the process of building the iOS and Android application.
Awesome. Yeah.
So right now we're web-based. That does increase friction if you're on your phone. You don't have access to some of the fun swipe interface that the phone might offer. So I think that's a big prerequisite for us.
Mm-hmm.
But then just getting the name out there, partnerships, maybe some of these OTAs, some of these larger providers that may or may not possess some of this data and the user base.
Right.
To begin with.
Yeah. Maybe tying up with something like TripAdvisor or White or whatnot. Those are some of the places.
There's a lot of areas where we
can
fit in.
And that could definitely definitely see where that can go from there, right? So that is super interesting aspect of what you're trying to build here. So I did a little research, and it seems like you are a part of YC, a we're part of YC, right? Can you share some experience around that, or to the founders who are planning to participate, and what is the experience like and the process like, and what do you got the best out of it, right?
Yeah, so I was a part of the YC Startup School.
Mm-hmm.
I was a group moderator for my group, which did give me kind of a fun level of responsibility and access to some of the behind-the-scene things. I thought it was a great experience. In a lot of ways, it was incredibly humbling for someone who, maybe was a little arrogant coming into this process, thinking I could build something. But you just learn how, as I said, how important it is to get out and test your product immediately with users, interact with those users. At the end of the day, they're going to decide whether or not your product's successful. So I thought YC did an absolutely phenomenal job at just reiterating the fact that that was so crucial.
That's awesome. And how has being part of Hatch has helped you out, or the company out, to grow where it is right now?
Yeah, definitely. So Hatch cemented our relationship with DigitalOcean, which again, as I said, as an early stage company, it's nice to have some things checked off and out of the way. You don't have to worry about it. And the immediacy that DigitalOcean has allowed me to have with my development life cycle has just made my life a million times easier.
That's great to hear, and thank you for being part of it, right? So
Appreciate it.
yeah, that is fantastic. Are there any things that you want to get out of here besides that we talked about? Any key points?
No, I think you're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not much in direct perspective, but I would love to learn a little bit more about your baseball background. Like, you know, what was it like at UPenn, and then what were the best times? And, you know, do you still play baseball or coach baseball? Yeah,
so it was great. It was playing baseball at the University of Pennsylvania was an amazing experience. Met a lot of my best friends to this day. We're through that program. I had an interesting career there because I did get hurt. So my career ended a little shorter than I probably would have liked. But I actually did come back to the team and help out as kind of an assistant coach in my senior year at Penn. And actually now I run the mentor program. So we connect alumni with the current Penn baseball athletes.
That's interesting, right? So you're still connected with your passion, right? You know, obviously, you know, you're building and solving much difficult and a bigger problems, but you're still connected to your passion. And
it was a large part of my life.
Right. And tell me, how's that helping you out with actually building the company that you're building? Does it take some of the stress away? And how do you relate these two?
Yeah. So I do think one thing that's important, and maybe doubly important if you're a solo founder, is to just surround yourself with different communities. Being in the weeds is good and necessary in certain points in time, but it can be detrimental. So you do want to talk to people outside your little bubble, your company bubble, learn about what's going on with, you know, different people, completely unrelated fields. And I do think for your mental sanity, it's really important, but also for your company to kind of step away and think about, you know, other perspectives.
Right. Have you hired anybody from your baseball background? Not yet, right?
I have not yet. We have, I actually have a baseball gentleman who has been helping me out.
Okay.
You know, kind of in an advisory role. It's been really, you know, helpful for me, and maybe down the road we'll sync up.
That's awesome. So, and you know, are you planning to keep being an athlete or some sort of an athleticism as a part of your culture in the company that you're building?
Yeah.
Are there any plans around how you keep that alive within the company and in your team?
Yeah, it's I'm not much of an athlete anymore, to be honest. I write a lot of code. But no, I love athletics. It's something that, you know, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday and you just want to burn off some steam, I think is a great activity. I don't participate in any formal leagues anymore. So, you know, I run and do stuff like that, but no formal athletics.
So yeah, talk to me about a couple of people that you really look up to, right? And they cannot be baseball stars, right? So.
Fair enough. Let me think on that. It's a timely cough. I don't know that one.
All right, let's pick a baseball star. Don't tell me Derek Jeter.
I was gonna say Jeter.
All right. No, but
maybe not.
Yeah. Who else?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people I looked up to. I'm just kind of blanking on names right now.
Yeah, Jeter's definitely an interesting character in that perspective, especially learning leadership, right?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of good things to learn from his career and how he held himself and the team around and build the franchise and a brand.
Yeah. No, exactly. One thing I do appreciate about Derek Jeter and folks like him is just the constant, I guess, importance of the team.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to a post-match conference, post-game conference, it's never I did this or I did that. It's we did this. Those guys pitched well. You know, those guys played great defense, and I think that's important. And it just invokes a lot of confidence in his leadership style.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Right, there's lesson to be learned from that.
Yeah.
If you were to define your company's culture in a one line, what would that be?
I think it's open. I would like to say it's really open.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I like asking questions. I like when people talk, and you get to know not necessarily what they did this week at work, but what they did on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what other hobbies they're pursuing. Maybe they like knitting, maybe they're parasailing, whatever it may be. I think that's something that often becomes missed in day-to-day banter about work or...
Yeah, definitely. You know, being open allows an individual to bring their authentic self to work, right? Where there are no really set rules and, you know, what if I behave this way? Is anybody going to judge me or not? And things along those lines, right? So...
And as a manager, I think that's a crucial ingredient to understanding how someone ticks. Is understanding what they do for fun, what they care about, you know, a deeper level of understanding than just the day-to-day office interaction.
That's awesome. Well,
cool.
Thanks a lot for
absolute pleasure
talking to me. It's been a pleasure,
Thank
and
you
I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much, AJ. Thanks for having me.
Yep, thanks.